Welcome to another edition of GW Unspoken, where we discuss stuff we don't typically talk about but probably should, and we're here with our wellbeing season plan, season 1 on mental health and emotional resilience. And I want to do something a little bit different today. I want to do a podcast off the cuff and give you some kind of strategy, I suppose, moving forward, but less research this time, but more about just experience of life. And I'm hoping you can feel what I'm feeling at the moment too. But how many times have you actually been part of an argument where there's, hopefully not physical violence, but there's arguing and people are struggling and you're feeling agitated and, you're on high alert all the time because the connection isn't going so well, whether it be a spouse or a friendship group or family member, work colleague, whoever it might be. But basically your window of tolerance, that part of where usually you can take a bit, is getting narrower and narrower and you're just feeling so agitated and you just don't, you may be the one who's, the consistent one. And you know that the argument that you're on about, it's not your fault. And you're thinking, what the hell, And you want to sort of express your point and you want to get across to the other person that, you're wrong, I'm right. What the hell? I've been doing this for ages. You know what happens? The emotional brain kicks in, the amygdala fires up into fight or flight or freeze, and then the other person might do the same. Maybe you might both be in fight, and that's pretty interesting. And, the connection's out the window. And so what do you do? What do you do? We have teenage girls. We know there's often, disagreements with their peers, and whether it's amplified by social media or the school day, they might bring that home and then we might have an opinion and then that might escalate again. And you think, well, I've got some life experience here. I think, my strategy might work for you, but they don't want to hear that. And you got to remember that teenagers especially, they have that overinflamed amygdala. Their brain is still growing. They don't have the logical reasoning often because even with us, as adults, when the emotional brain kicks in, the prefrontal cortex, that thinking part of the brain, it switches off, it goes offline. So we often, give the person a spray or argue or walk off or whatever we do when we're triggered. And an hour or two down the track or half a day down the track, we don't understand why we lost it. And that's our emotional brain just trying to protect us and when we're in that mood. At the moment, a lot of people know I'm working with a company I've designed called Connect Beyond the Plan, working with a lot of people who are disability, stereotypically a lot of teenage and tween boys, hoping to be a father figure for them and a role model. But even seeing some of those boys, they react in the community, it's, because they have been through sometimes a lot of trauma, then it refires that neural pathway that they've been triggered on before. So, when something happens, they think, well, that behavior must mean this, and it becomes more of a trigger. And look, adults have the same. So if you're working with someone who's in trauma, that can be even more challenging. So I don't know. It's a tough one. And I just want to know what you're thinking. Are you feeling the same way? I'm talking to a lot of parents at the moment too, and you can hear the frustrations they have, especially with their tween or teen, because they're going through that natural state. It's been stated before, and don't quote me who it was, but they're saying especially if you're a single mum or grandma or female member in the family and you're now looking after a boy and you've gone from stereotypically the nurturer, the lover, the carer, the confide, and then next thing you know, you have to be more of an authoritarian style person because the teenager is now starting to push back because their brain is, changing because they want to, and it does it naturally because they have to leave the nest anyway. So we naturally become more autonomous, become more independent. We do push back on values or ideas or beliefs. And then especially in that relationship, the female will often think, well, what the hell? Where's my son gone or where's my grandson gone? Because they're now pushing back. And those roles are then conflicted and changed during that emotional turmoil time. So I don't know, like teenagers are a high-tech society. They are more socially connected than ever before. And so what does that mean? It means that they've got even more of a chance, yes, to connect, but sometimes they're not good connections. Sometimes because there's often no non-verbals being displayed, then they can actually take it the wrong way and then more arguments can start. tailor that with the emotional brain, with hormones, the willingness to be accepted by our peers, both males and females, particularly females. Again, stereotypically, but that's the research. It's just like a time bomb, isn't it? And if you're a parent and you're trying to navigate this space, or a grandparent trying to navigate the space, it just becomes more and more challenging because the teen brain is sort of outweighing, what your experience is and maybe what you think, they should value. They should understand that you're the parent and your way should be the right way. I'm here to protect you. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to help you understand life's journeys. So what do we do? Especially when peers mean everything to our teens. How do we not just ignore what's happening? How do we hold the line? But how? How do we do that? Some people say, well, do I want to be right or do I want the relationship? I love that quote, but, you've got to still have the relationship, but we still have to hold the line. And we know connection is key for everything. It's connection for comfort and reestablishment of relationships. And I was a big advocate for that, working in the wellbeing space in schools, and have another business called Education Made Simple. Check it out if you like on the webpage. But it's about really connecting teachers to students. And the key for that is making sure you actually reestablish or establish a firm relationship so the students can feel safe, they can be open, they can be vulnerable. And when they do that without any stigma attached or anyone having a go at them or criticising them, they're going to feel like they belong. And the classroom culture can go through the roof. And it should go through the roof. So how do we do it? Well, here's some things. Number one, if you're with someone who's a fighter or flighter, then you need time away. All right? That's not me. I'd rather get in and get it sorted, but some people just need the space. And sometimes you have to be the better person and let that person just breathe a little bit, reconnect after an hour. Listening and paraphrasing, if time is right when you guys are working it out, then maybe really listening and paraphrasing, saying, oh, what I hear is this and what I understand is this. Using language is really important. I'm really sorry you feel this way. I certainly didn't want you to feel this way. I can understand how you feel. I mean, you don't have to agree with what they're doing or displaying, but you can still certainly understand from their perspective. And it's one of the biggest conflict resolution skills is saying, I understand. Diffuses the problem, diffuses the situation. Holding them close if it's physically appropriate. Right? Holding the other person close. Babies love it because they can hear the heartbeat and feel that like they did in the mother's womb. Right? But even from a father figure or a father to their son or daughter, holding them tight. All right? If they're willing to do that, obviously. Getting them outside. Getting them outside in nature, outside of the four walls. They're probably within the four walls all day. You probably have too. Bringing some fresh air. I love the one going for a drive. Taking some of the participants for a drive when you look at the road straight ahead or at the side window and you're actually talking straight ahead, but you're actually listening across from each other and you're not eyeballing each other so you're not feeling uncomfortable. The other person's not feeling uncomfortable either. It's a really big one. It's really powerful. If you're having an argument with your son or daughter out there or stepdaughters or sons, take them for a drive. Even if you don't feel like it, be the better person, take them for a drive. Listen, understand. Tell me why you feel this way. All right, I'm gonna listen without judgment. It's such a big thing. And sometimes they don't want advice. Sometimes it's just actually listening. Another one we've talked about before with Tony Robbins is a big one with this is movement, getting people to move to get rid of all that cortisol, that really negative, built up bad energy and hormones in your body. Getting to move. Go for a walk, take the dogs, go to the gym. Whatever you do, kick the foot in the park. We're doing that with the girls at the moment coming back from school or from work and taking them to the park for half an hour, 45 minutes just before dark. It's unreal just to see the mood change and the energy change and the connection change. So I want you to think about it. It's hard enough as it is when everyone is busy and everyone has their own inner demons and everyone has their own struggles and want to be right and probably affects their own emotional being when you feel like you're under attack or you haven't done anything wrong. All right, but I do want to share one thing before head off. And this is, if Kelly King's out there listening to this, I hope you are. You've brought this into my space with I love. A lot of the things we do in schools is positive behaviour for learning, which is a positive psychology approach, which I love. Some really good tools in there for teachers to connect with students, especially around behaviour. But she got me onto this Ross Green book. And the Ross Green book, I'm up to the second one at the moment, but Ross Green is talking about collaborative and proactive solutions. It's called the CPS guide. And he goes through a lot of ways to deal with, I suppose, behaviours. And those behaviours, I suppose, can, be de-escalated, but also worked upon with the person who is struggling. And you can actually build a bridge that both of you get empowerment from. The current one I'm listening to is called Lost at School. He has other ones out there as well, but really briefly, he has a conversation template, and a tool. This can be used with NDOS participants. It can be worked with home, with parents and kids, the children. It can be definitely worked across schools, which he has gone into some schools as well, and I'd love every school to adopt this approach too. Kelly, I know you'd like this as well, but these are some of the things he said in this collaborative and positive solutions model, the CPS model. Step 1, have empathy and listen and understand. And the goal here is to gather the young person's perspective without judgment, and I love that. I've noticed that, hey, what's going on when this situation happened? What makes it tough? And just listening, all right? And paraphrasing means that you're actually going to start a bond because they know that even subconsciously that you're listening when you're paraphrasing and you're actually taking the time to understand. This is the second step I love, and this is a step where a lot of people get this wrong, I think, where they think, oh, what you're saying, Gary, is I'll just have to give in because they're escalating enough to wait till let them have their bad behaviour, and then when they calm down, talk to them. No. All right, you actually define the adult concern. Yes, let me take a step back. Yes, you still can only do this when people are de-escalated. All right, so as long as a person is safe and not causing harm on anybody else, then it might be a time to actually let them go for a while. But when they're de-escalated and you're de-escalated, you can define what your concern as the adult is. Share what's important from your perspective, really clearly, really calmly, and really slowly. We have these things called mirror neurons. We start having a softer voice, a quieter voice, talk slowly. That'll eventually rub off on the person we're speaking to. So, some of the things you might say is I need to make sure that, fairness, safety, learning. My concern is, and you obviously state your concern. And the last bit I love, which is really important, is you then have this invitation where you problem solve together. It's not up to the parent to decide what the answer is or how to fix that problem, because that's just like, he calls that step A. Most of us do that. We've had life experience and we know we're right. It makes sense, bang. But the kids or the children don't learn anything from it. So you actually collaboratively brainstorm solutions that meet both the needs. Things like a prompt might be, I wonder if there's a way we can work on this together, or what do you think may help, or how about we try this first and see if this works if you're not getting anything back, in return. So you can actually have some proposed solutions and then go back to it if it doesn't work. I love that. I love the fact that he comes up with ideas to actually work alongside, not overbear or talk down to a child. And I know there's going to be a lot of people out there listening going, well, that's just bullshit, Gary, because again, we're in an era where we just enable kids. This is not enabling kids. Go back to your childhood if you listen to this. How were you dealt with in behaviours? If you showed poor behaviour, what happened? I got the strap. I got the wooden spoon. I got the smack. Did that help our connection? No. Did it make me behave? Yes. Why? Out of fear? Yes. Is that a good thing? Probably not. I've seen teachers out there who have very well-disciplined children in their classroom because they inspire or inflict fear into the classroom. You tell me now, if kids, particularly in the age between 10 and 15, are in their emotional brain and you are inflicting fear into a classroom, how do you think that's going to go for their connection? How's it going to go with their emotional brain firing up and their thinking brain be able to switch on? Probably zero. But because they're sitting there quiet, you think you've got a great classroom. Incorrect. So society has changed. We need to do things different. Doesn't mean we let people get away with it. I know that's the biggest concern with a lot of parents out there and teachers. All right, we can still hold the line. We can still have, what our concerns are as an adult. We can also build that relationship through the conflict when we both talk about what are some of the ideas and brainstorm that and have it mutually together. Look, I hope this makes sense. I hope that it resonates with some of the things you might be dealing with right now, whether it be yourself to someone younger, maybe it's across a family member who's the same age or even older, maybe it's in your role in your work, maybe it's just in general life. It's something you can take on board. But definitely advocate Ross Green. Have a look into some of his theories. It's a positive, proactive approach. And look, no one's got it figured out. All I know is that connection is key for everything. If you can keep that connection with whoever you're dealing with, then the relationship won't be burnt, and there's always a way forward. Thank you for joining us this episode.